Hey guys, this is DPE Carol coming at you from the Airstream trailer in Northern California. It's a little cold in the Airstream tonight, so these are going to be quick. So recently it came to my attention something that I've been somewhat aware of, but got some confirmation of that I'd like to talk about today. And that is I had reports from several people that, hey, in all of their flight training, they never once received a pre-brief, okay? And barely ever received a post-brief, okay, after a flight lesson. So this is less than ideal because, as you all know, the airplane is one of the worst available learning environments that we have. And most effective use of the time in the airplane would be if with a student and CFI who are well prepped for that particular lesson and have already discussed what's going to happen and why they're going to do what they're going to do, etc. So this is, I guess, not that surprising to me because I understand that typically CFIs aren't paid as much on the ground as they are in the air. Typically CFIs are highly motivated to go flying and build time. But listen, if you are not giving your students pre-briefs and debrief CFIs, you are stealing in a way, okay? You are basically making their instruction at least 50% less effective, if not more. So nowhere does the FAA command us, that I have found, to do pre-briefings. However, in long-standing effective flight training programs, they are a required part of the process. So let me give an example of how I did this with my students. So first couple of lessons, I would show up and have to teach this person, hey, here's your Super Cub. Here's the manual. Here's all the different books we're going to be dealing with. Here's the airplane flying handbook. Here's the pilot's handbook of aeronautical knowledge. Take a look at this with me. And I would guide them through showing them because they had zero exposure to this prior. Then, prior to the first lesson, I would tell them, okay, I want you to read chapter 1, if you will, of such and such book. Because we are going to be trying this, and this maneuver for our first flight lesson together, right? And typically that would be very simple things like basic turns, climbs, and descent, learning to feel the aircraft, and then watching for ground drift, signs of wind, maybe a ground reference maneuver. Now, after the lesson, we'd do a debrief. I'd get their feedback so I'd know what more accurately, what did they understand and what did they not, and what did they feel they needed more practice on. And I also am able to assess where they're at and see, do we need to repeat this lesson again or can we move forward mostly? And then the debrief would end with a look ahead to the next lesson. So then I would tell them, read ahead in such and such a book, these chapters, and I would help them to know where to locate them. This would go on for those first couple of lessons. After this, they knew the drill, they knew what was expected, and I would say, okay, next lesson is going to be, let's say, slow flight and a power off stall. So show up with those sections read and show up with your questions to the pre-brief. Then you would pre-brief, then you would fly, then you would debrief, and the cycle would go over and over again. So this typically will make your time in the airplane far more fruitful for the learner, which is what we want. So if you guys have some questions about how to do a good pre-brief and debrief process, I found a good suggestion on online at glimeaviation.com. I'll post the link in the comments below. But here's another note on this. For private and commercial certificate training, applicants are required to receive and log ground training on the flight maneuvers of each part, right? The Part 61 section that covers private and the Part 61 section that covers commercial. Let's look at that for a second. Let me explain why making sure that you're doing a pre-brief and post-brief is so important per the FAR's guidance. In 61107, flight proficiency, okay, it says general, a person who applies for a private pilot certificate must receive and log ground and flight training from an authorized instructor on the areas of operation of this section that apply to the aircraft category and class rating sought. The areas of operation then listed below for airplane single engine class rating is maneuvers. So, a lot of times I have seen applicants show up without any log whatsoever of any ground training on any maneuvers. And that actually means that we can't start the check ride because they are not then adequately prepared to begin the check ride, and I'm not legally allowed to start it. So sometimes we see instructors simply filling in the blanks or making some sort of big meta endorsement that they covered these items. But do you see how if you knew that this list was in existence and perhaps you made a little checklist out of it, put it in the back of the student's logbook or a note in ForeFlight or somewhere in a note on your iPad, you could see, hey, are we actually complying with this and doing these things? Have we forgotten anything in our instruction process? And then you could actually say, mark down, oh yeah, we talked about slow flight and stalls for about 20 minutes. So put down point 2 or 3, okay? And on what date? And your signature. And guess what? That's a legal log and that complies with 61107. So that right there is an example of why it's so important for you guys to add pre-briefs and debriefs in when it's recent for your student. They can go out and then practice what you just talked about, and then after the flight, it's fresh in their minds for all of this knowledge to sink in, okay? So this also applies to the commercial areas of flight proficiency and maneuvers in 6110129. But I'll leave you guys to look that up for those of you who are doing that. So that's it for this session of Northbound Flying Channel. Thanks for listening, folks. I'm cheering for you.